Okay. So I always start in Lightroom. If you guys aren't familiar with Lightroom, this is Lightroom Classic. So this is like the what I call the pro version of Lightroom. The cloud version of Lightroom is also great. It's even better for beginners because everything is stored on the cloud, so you don't have to deal with some of the quirks of Lightroom Classic. I will show you that on my iPad at the end. But I keep everything, on my hard drive. I have a system where how I catalog my shoots. I find the image that I want to use. So let's see. I want to find one. Oh yeah, here, let's do this. Okay. No, not that one. Grotto Swim. Okay. So this is what the image looks like raw. Like I haven't done any work to it. That's what it looks like in camera. My basic Lightroom correction brings it to this. So if we were to take a look at this guy, I think I can do a before and after or a comparison. Hang on, let's see. Oh, it's into the develop module. Wow. Oh, okay, awesome. So I need to update my Lightroom, and they have generative remove in Lightroom now too. So you don't even need to touch Photoshop. You can totally do everything in Lightroom. I'm wondering if it's in the cloud version. I imagine it is because those are the people that they're wanting to. Okay, let's see. I feel like that is not being accurate because create virtual copy, reset. Yeah, there we go. So you can see what I do with just a little bit of Lightroom correction. And I mean, what I do here is not that difficult. Basically, I just use the temp and tint sliders. And that's, unless I'm really struggling to get the result I want with those two tools, I don't do anything else to prep. But I can bring back, so I always start with the magenta. And you can see as I pull in that magenta, that green cast goes away. And obviously if I go more towards green, it's gonna go more green. So I just slide that towards the magenta. I don't really wanna overdo it. When it starts to get really purple, that's generally where I stop. And then I will take the blue and yellow slider, and I'll take the yellow slider. Now see, I went too far on the magenta. So I'm gonna pull it back a little bit. Okay, so that feels pretty good to me in terms of color. Now I have to conquer the contrast. So contrast, I'm gonna use these three down here: texture, clarity, and dehaze. When my images look like this in a dirty pool, dehaze is my best friend. So I will use that slider. Bum, ba, ba, dum, bum, bum, bum. There we go. And actually, that's a much different edit than that one. So my color edits change with my mood. I swear. Like, I have the same process, but like one day I'll edit the photo, like the preview photos one way, and then if I stop midway and I go and I do it the next day, I'll find something completely different.
The right one looks better for her skin tone, but I feel like the left one looks better for the water. So then if you could like combine those, I think.
Yes, well,
that would be like a Photoshop.
You would want to use the masking. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I did. I corrected this better for the skin, but I really liked the color of the water. So, and then if this is what I show my clients, and then it could change when I go in to do the final edit. But I just want to give them a sense of what the color might look like when they're done, rather than them seeing the raw. Pretty much my clients never see the raw. Never. Unless it's somebody I work with all the time and they know my process, and I'm like, whatever. You know what it's gonna look like, so I'm not gonna do the legwork. But for my paying clients, I always go through this process. And then in Lightroom, you can batch edit. So I'll do it on one. And then unless my lighting changes like drastically, which in this case it did a lot because I was moving around and like figuring stuff out. But I'll batch edit. And I select the one that I want to apply the edit to. And then if you hold down the shift key, it'll select everything in a row. If you hold down the command key, you can select individual, which I think a lot of products use that feature. Hopefully you guys are familiar with that. But if I select a bunch and then I hit the sync button, it will apply it across the board to all of them. So I don't have to do that individually each time over and over and over again. And then if I get to a place where I'm like, oh, that edit no longer looks good, then I go in and adjust that one and then apply it further on. It's kind of like a domino effect, if that makes sense. And hopefully, Bill teaches a Lightroom class, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so if you're interested in this even more, take Bill's Lightroom class. It'll be great knowledge. So then let's say I have this one. I may just pull back. Yeah, see, I pull back on the, it's just a different combination of these 4 colors: magenta, green, blue, and yellow. And that's how I do my basic. I still think I have a little bit too much magenta in there, so I'm going to pull it there. I'm like, okay, I'm happy with that. So then I transfer it to Photoshop, edit in. So I go to edit in Adobe Photoshop. And then I kind of take an overall analysis of the image, and I'm like, okay, what do I need to get rid of? I need to get rid of this. I need to get rid of some of that. I definitely need to get rid of the cord. And then, this area has a lot of bubbles, but it's not like immediately something I super need to get rid of. I probably would want to get rid of that. So what I do, first thing, is I make a copy. So Command J will make a copy of this bottom, of whatever layer you're selected on. So I make a copy of that. And then generally also, if I want to do any liquefaction, I do that very first thing. So I think I'm going to expand her hair a little bit. And you can see, because the angle at which I was shooting, her top, I was above her, shooting above her, and she was lower than me in the water. So she was almost at the bottom of the pool, her tail's resting on the bottom there. So we have a slendering effect. So if you have a client that is a little bit more self-conscious and they're like worried about looking fat on the camera or whatever, if you shoot them from slightly above, you're automatically going to get a nice slendering effect. But sometimes it can be a little too much. So I might use the liquefy tool. So I go up to, and you're not going to see this because I don't have it on the screen, but I'll speak it. I go up to filter in the Adobe Photoshop menu up top, and then I go to liquefy. The quick key for it is Shift Command X, which I never use that, but because I can never remember. But then it pops up this window here, and you have all these options, and Photoshop is already great with its AI, and you can do face-aware liquefy. So if you want to make her smile a little bit more, you can do that, and Photoshop does a really decent job. You can also make their face shape slender or wider, things like that. But what I use the most are these two. So I use I have forward warp tool, which is, I love that Photoshop has if you hover over it, you can get the name of it. So the forward warp tool, and then I use the pucker tool and the bloat tool. So pucker will suck things in. Bloat will bring them out. Sometimes things look too skinny to me. So I'll use the bloat tool to like even them out a little bit more. But in this case, I feel like her torso is just a little bit too large in comparison with the rest of her. So I'm going to use the pucker tool, and I'm going to make it really big because I don't want it to be super obvious. And then I'm just going to click with my mouse until it's where I think it should be. And so, you kind of adjust, and you're probably going to play with this, if you experiment with this, and you're going to mess it up, and it's okay. You can Command Z. Command Z will undo anything. Her arm is the only other thing that's really bothering me because, again, she's at an angle, so this arm is a little bit too far forward. So I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller and try to make it look as even as I can. I'm going to go back to using the forward warp tool, and I just don't like her elbow looks really pointy. So I'm going to just soften that a little bit and then maybe push this in just a little bit. There we go. That feels a little bit better to me. So then for her hair, I'll use the forward warp tool, and I'll kind of just estimate what size I need. And you're going to want to play and experiment with this to see what works best for you once you get used to how the tool works. You never want to push it too far because you are going to see that you've stretched pixels when you look really close. But there's ways to work around that. And sometimes I take it too far, and then I'm like, nah, and I'll start over again. And then if there's any little bulges of anything, I usually will just kind of tone those down. And I do like to add a little bit extra curvature to the hair, just because, especially if the hair does not want to cooperate underwater. It's the nice thing about photography is you can manipulate a little bit more than you can with film. Also, fabrics and stuff, I will round stuff out if it's too flat. So I feel like that is a little too flat, so I'm just going to round it out. Same thing here. This is going to be more challenging because it's on her arm. So I think I'd have to spend, if I really wanted to get this right, I need to spend more time on that. But that's not bad. Now it's just not so pointy. And then when I'm happy, then I hit OK. And then you can see the before and after. So it's very subtle, but it really helps. So after that, and then if you sometimes I'll come back and be you know what, I actually don't like that. So I'll add a mask, which is this layer masks here. It looks like the Japanese flag inverted. And I take my brush and I use black because black is going to get rid of. Black conceals, white reveals. It's a nice little rhyme that I taught my high school kids last year. So if you just remember black conceals, white reveals, I can be you know what, I actually don't like that. Or actually, this is better. So I'm zooming in, we're at 200%, and now you can see really how dirty the water is. I mean, it is dirty. Oh, so bad. Luckily, they are only getting one each. But you can see where I manipulated it and the pixels have stretched. So there are some ways to mitigate this. I use masking a lot to do it. Oops. What did I just do? There we go. So I will conceal with black, and I'll find the edge. Oh, hang on. And you got to make sure your opacity is up there. And then I will just brush away some of what I did. And you kind of have to play, you know, like luckily it works really well when you don't have a lot of particles and stuff in the water and you have a smooth background. But sometimes you have to go in and play with the blending more and stuff like that. And then the other way is like final after I've done all my work, I add a new layer and I set it to soft light. And then I make sure that this box is checked, fill with soft light neutral color. It's gonna put a 50% gray on there. And that just gives us a base to apply this next effect. So I will I'll go up to filter and then I go to noise. So noise, you guys know what noise is and I mean, you have it in both film and photography. There's always a small amount of inherent noise to an image. So I'm actually going to add some noise. And it's going to conceal those stretch pixels a little bit. So we can zoom, if we zoom in, can I zoom in more? Usually I use the Gaussian, but you can use the uniform one. The Gaussian I feel like tends to like mask the stretch pixels a little bit better. And you can change the amount you add. You'll see like, I mean, you can way overdo it. You can make an image look super noisy. I usually use anywhere between 4 and 7. And you can just input that. So I'll go 7%. And then you can see what that does. You know, I mean, you can still see the stretch, but to the naked eye or the non-professional eye, it helps mask it. So that's one thing I do, especially also when I'm doing composites, because oftentimes when you're compositing, the noise and levels are going to be different between the images. So that's a really nice way to bring it all together. So I'm just going to do a little example. I'm not going to retouch this whole photo. If I'm spending 45 minutes to an hour on a photo, that's generally, you know, I'd prefer to do it in 35 to 45, but I'll spend up to an hour on the client image. Because I charge I think I just upped it to 95 per edit. So that's my hourly rate for retouching is $95. I mean, if I love my client a lot and I love the image, I'll go over it. I have some really loyal clients, and I will go above and beyond for them because they are so awesome. But I try to keep my editing time between 35 minutes to an hour. And it took me a long time to be that quick. Sometimes I would spend 4, 5, 6 hours on an image perfecting it. So, you know, you're not going to get that time right away, but you can definitely work towards it. So the newest advancement that is super magnificent is the remove tool. So it's under with like your patch tool, your healing brush, spot healing tool. It's called the remove tool. And basically it works best smaller, I feel like, but you can use it on a large scale. So I'm going to make my brush relatively the same size. I don't want to go too far over because I want to minimize the amount of pixels that I change. And I'm just going to click on it. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. You need a new layer first. Where's my new layer? Ah! You just went new. Let's see. There we go. New layer. So then I would label that like a retouch layer so that I know what it is. I'm going to click on that. Photoshop AI does its magic. It calculates what all the pixels surrounding it look like. And bam, it's gone. It's brilliant. This is the function I've been waiting for and dreaming of since I started learning Photoshop. And it works really well when it works really well. When it doesn't work really well, it's horrific. But when it does work, it's great. So I would do the same thing, and it saves me so much time. Like, I would have spent 5 to 10 minutes probably 5 minutes getting rid of that. Because then you have to do the legwork of figuring out, okay, what pixels do I need to take and replace this with? But those geniuses of Photoshop, they figured out how to get AI to do it for us, which is by far my favorite thing about AI, and how it will greatly enhance us as photographers. It's like learning with anything. You learn how to use the tool so that you can respect the AI afterwards. That would have taken me 20 minutes just to retouch out that one chord. 4 years ago? 3 years ago?
Yeah, but somebody who learns it now, they'll be like, of course you can do that. Like, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, but you may have teachers that don't teach you like how it used to be done, but it's really important to know where you come from, because then you can respect the tools that you have now, and it makes you more of a creative, because if you know how it works, you can think of other ways to apply it and think outside the box. But it's just miraculous. I'm like, dude, to do this demo, 3 years ago, not even I feel like generative AI has only been around for a year. Yeah. 1.5, 2. 1.5 to 2 years, yeah. And sometimes if you're not accurate enough, it'll miss. But then you just go back over it. And here, I think it ended up messing up her arm a little bit, so I'd have to go in and fix that a little bit more in detail. But it does such a really good job. And then when you are going in and using this stuff, because if you look at it zoomed out, you're gonna miss things. So you always want to go zoom in and look at least 100%. Oh yeah, see here you can see her fingers are wrinkling. So I always go in and look at it at 100% and see, okay, what do I need to fix? Yep, and here generative AI actually took away part of her arm because it got confused that the shadow part of her arm was her actual arm. So it's a really good, and you can actually see even the AI at the pixel level, it's still it doesn't have some of the organicness that actual captured light has, and the way that the light is captured on your camera sensor. So that's another way. If we add the noise again to this, here, let me move this above. I added that noise layer. It completely gets rid of the generative AI's kind of repetitiveness.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird texture that it gives it.
Yeah. So generally, I always do my noise layer last. I try to save that for last. And I just remind myself, okay, I'm going to go in and do this. So when you are using that remove tool, just be careful. Make sure to zoom in and look for some of that stuff. If it misses little things, I'll just zoom in, and then I'll make my brush smaller, because the smaller you can work it, whoops, wrong layer. Smaller you can work it, the better. And the more accurate results you'll have. And so I use this tool for all my backscatter. And I mean, this still is super tedious.
What about the dust filter?
Yeah, let me show you the dust and scratches. Yeah. I'm going to get rid of the rest of this really quick. the dust and scratches filter I also use in conjunction with masking. Okay, he has 3. Okay. So again, dust and scratches. So we have to make a new layer. So I would, I think it's command, because I want to take all of my layers. So I have to command option shift E. Command, again, that's command option shift E, and it will create a flat layer of all the work that I've done. So basically it doesn't flatten it, but it flattens everything and makes a duplicate on top of all of those, so you don't lose all of your work. And then based on that, again, I go up to filter, noise, dust and scratches. And now you can get yourself into some trouble here if you take it too far. So I try to find a happy medium. The threshold is where you can get into trouble, because if you take it too far, you're gonna get like some weird stuff going on. Let me see if I can. Yeah, see, you've got some like weird pixelization going on. So you wanna make sure to look for that. This like, let's see if I can find it in another place. Oh yeah, like look at her on her crown there. We're like missing parts of it and stuff. So I took the threshold way too high. That's what it should have looked like. But then if I take the threshold down too much, it goes completely blurry. So threshold will help you control the amount of sharpness. Radius kind of, it works with like the bubble or the radius of the pixel and how many pixels you want to affect. I usually like to use, let's see, what do I like? Like I usually go to about a 4 or a 5, and then I try not to get my threshold above like 17. But I also gauge on what my background looks like, right? Because I'm going to mask out my subject. So I can take it a little bit farther. See, that's too much. The rock is starting to look fake. I'm actually going to pull my threshold back. And if she's kind of blurry, it's okay. I'm focusing mostly on this for the background, because that's where like the time-consuming stuff happens. So I'm happy with that. So then I go, okay. And then I make a mask. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it with black so that I get rid of it, and then I paint it back in where I want it. So Command Shift Delete, yes? Oh, so Command Shift Delete will take whatever color is here and apply it everywhere. So I need that to be black. So I'm going to hit X and it'll swap. If you ever need to get white and black, you can hit I believe it's the D key, and it'll revert it to black and white no matter what colors you have in your color swatch. So now that I have black there, I'm going to go Command Shift Delete. And so now that brought back all of my junk. So then I go in and I take my brush and I paint with white where I want to get rid of stuff and blur it out, right? And so once I do this, I lose a lot of my grain and stuff. But that's, again, where that noise layer comes in. Because when you zoom in and you look, you have noise. You don't have noise, it looks pretty fake. You add the noise, you like really can't even tell. You know? So it's finding the balance between the two. And then obviously, you know, when you go in here, you have to kind of do it with a little bit more discretion. And you can select your subject. So like, let's see, select subject. And Photoshop does a pretty good job. It's still learning. Like, it's not getting all over hair and stuff. But this gives you a good, a good block. So, like, I can go in and quickly paint with white, everywhere that I need to. Let me zoom out a little bit. And get rid of, some of that stuff. I think, am I painting with white? I think so. So, quick down and dirty, messy edit. And then any other big stuff, I'll go in with the remove tool and remove that. So it's a process. But there are tons of advancements that have been made that make this so much faster than it used to be. And you always should go in and refine. I know what I did. That's why it wasn't working, because I forgot to invert it. Sorry. Okay, so once you select your subject, you have to invert the selection. That's why. So Command-Shift-I will invert your selection. And then you go in and do it. I was like, that's weird. It's not affecting where I want it to.
Do you ever just like replace the whole background for like an actual ocean, or is that too much?
I think I've done that like maybe once, but because I shoot in the ocean so much.
Right, but
I don't have to, but you can.
But if you're in the pool and you
if somebody asked me to do it, I would charge them a lot, but always charge for that extra work. You definitely could. And it's so much easier now to do all the selecting and compositing because of all of these AI tools. So I will, because we're running out of time, hopefully that gives you some stuff to play with when you're editing. The color correction, just really quickly, I use curves. The skin correct, maybe, because we really got to get going to the scuba shop. I will